Hi, this is Victor Fontaine. Thank you for watching this presentation about yoga. I decided to make this presentation because in this Western part of the world, we Westerners are always borrowing concepts from the Far East, like the concept of karma, concept of mantra, and the concept of yoga also. Having workshops and sessions, but sometimes lacking its meaning, the origins, and ultimately the ultimate purpose. In this presentation, we will exploring the 7 original yogas written by a yogi named Patanjali. So Patanjali took all the concept of yoga that was appeared for the very first time in the Hindu Vedas that are dated more than 17,000 years ago. And for the very first time, he wrote them in what it is called Sutras, including the 7 original yogas. But sutra is a rule of or aphorism in Sanskrit literature, a set of this some grammar or Hindu law or philosophy, and also in Buddhism. Actually, Siddhartha Gautama, the Shakyamuni Buddha, taught his disciples orally, but they were written all the teachings of Buddhism in sutras. So, what Yoga Sutras are? Yoga Sutras are a practical textbook to guide our spiritual journey of remembering who we really are. The true meaning of yoga is the union of body, mind, soul, and spirit. According to yoga, we suffer because of not knowing our true self, and because of the illusion of separation of our individual consciousness from the universal consciousness. So the Yoga Sutras will guide us in the spiritual journey of remembering. But who was Patanjali? Patanjali actually wrote the Yoga Sutras. However, there is not much known about him, except that he was presumably an Indian and lived somewhere between the 2nd and 4th century before Christ. In the Indian mythology, the second quality of God, which is called Vishnu. The first quality is Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the maintainer of the universe, and last, Shiva, which is the destroyer or the transformer of the universe. In this case, Vishnu, the maintainer of the universe, sleeps between creations, resting on the great multi-headed serpent Ananta, floating on the ocean of consciousness. When Shiva woke Vishnu on his dance of creation, Ananta asked to be born as a great teacher. Shiva granted his wish, and he was born as Patanjali. So Patanjali is a reincarnation of Ananta. And he was born in the palm of the great yogini Gonika. So in those times, most teachings were done orally, and students learned by the ways of sutras. The word sutra comes from the same root of the medical term suture, meaning to connect or hold together. When the teacher expounded on a piece of knowledge, the student will be given a short phrase that will rather later remind him or her of the greater body of material. This was somewhat the equivalent of the modern day cue cards. The challenge now is that even knowing the sutras, you can never be certain as to the greater meaning. A further story says that Patanjali himself wrote down the sutras on palm leaves, but a goat ate half of them before he took the remainder to the Himalayas. Perhaps this is the origin of the modern day goat yoga. Sankhya is one of the ancient Indian system of philosophy. It is a theoretical understanding that holds that knowledge is the path of enlightenment. Patanjali's great gift to the world was that he took this profound and yet purely intellectual philosophy and presented in a form that the average spiritual seeker could follow and use. a roadmap of our journey to enlightenment. We cannot be sure exact what Patanjali meant to tell us. His Yoga Sutras have been translated and commented on many on people over the years. The three versions or main versions of Patanjali Sutras are the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali by Alistair Scherer, How to Know God by Swami Pramabananda, and the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali by Sri Swami Satchidananda. So, what are the Yoga Sutras? The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali contains 196 sutras, divided between 4 chapters, discussing the aims and practice of yoga, the development of yogic powers, and finally liberation. Like a gentle guiding map, the Yoga Sutras warn you of the pitfalls on your spiritual journey and offer the means to overcome them. While there is a teaching in each sutra, we'll check that later on the presentation. In Vedic text, the text of the Vedic literature, it is common to encapsulate the whole teaching early in the discourse. Patanjali does simply, in these first few sutras, giving us the essence of our spiritual practices. First, yoga is the progressive setting of the mind into silence. Second, when the mind is settled, we are established in our own essential state, which is unbounded consciousness. And third, our essential nature is usually overshadowed by the activity of the mind. So, our spiritual practices should be to look within. Our true self lies hidden in the silence between the thoughts, beyond all limitations. However, the doubts, chaos, and confusion of our thoughts cause us to forget who we really are. The obstacle to spiritual progress is stress. That stress which creates fatigue, leading to doubts and causing laziness, which brings sensory attachments, manifestings, and delusions, which causes us to forget who we really are. By being committed to our practices, we can overcome all of this. To have a peaceful mind, we should cultivate attitudes of friendliness, without jealousy towards those who are joyful. Have compassion towards those who are unhappy and less fortunate, and delight in and support the acts of the virtuous. And be impartial to and avoid the dramas of the impure. The fruit of wrong action is sorrow. The fruit of right action is joy. You must take responsibility for your thoughts, words, and actions by living consciously. The Yoga Sutra are the path of purification, refinement, and surrender. The cause of our suffering mainly are the following. 1. Forgetting who we really are. 2. Living from the ego. 3. Clinging to pleasure and pain. And 4. Fearing death. All of these are resolved through meditation when we remember our essential nature of unbounded consciousness. So, we can talk about the 7 yogas written by Patanjali. The first one is Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is the yoga of wisdom. It is the yoga of the Vedas and the early Upanishads, in which the yogi or the yogini reaches the discrimination of the real from the unreal, in the light of knowledge throughout a process of contemplative meditation. The second, Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga utilizes the energy of our emotions, desire, afflictions, devotions, and love. Of importance here is that the object of such feelings is of godly nature rather than mortal. Through rituals, song, dance, and recitations of mantras, the longing of the human heart is being channeled, intensified, and utilized to eliminate the common feeling of being separated from everything else. which automatically leads to endless desires, attachment, and suffering. Next is Karma Yoga. The Bhagavad Gita is the main source of Karma Yoga. The Karma Yogi strives after liberation through the act of self-transcending attitude. Whatever one task, duties, or activities, one views everything as an act of sacrifice to the divine. A selfless service and does absolutely nothing on view of the fruits that it might yield. In other words, with not a string attached. The next is Mantra Yoga. The word mantra is derived from two Sanskrit terms, manas, which is mind, and trayati, which is liberation, and deals with the liberation of the human mind. In the many of the traditional scriptures, it is advocated as an ideal yoga practice. If devotion and dedication are not pronounced or not yet developed. In Mantra Yoga, a short phrase is being altered, either audible or mentally, in order to make the mind concentrated through it one pointed, or in other words, to be concentrating in just one point, the uni-pointed mind. The next is Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga, the royal yoga, deals mainly with the techniques of meditation and described in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Even though the term Raja Yoga is being mentioned in many traditional yoga scriptures, the Yoga Sutras do not at all utilize it. These days, the Raja Yoga is understood to be meditation without relating to the other limbs of yoga. Next is Tantra Yoga. The word Tantra consists of two Sanskrit terms, Tanali, expansion, and Tatrayi, liberation. And it is said that the only path to liberation in this present age, in which the destructive effect of self-centered wishes and desires are so predominant. Tantra works presumably, or Tantra works because it utilizes the fundamental energy of daily life and living in order to transform our state of consciousness, the energy of desire. And the last one, Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga is one of the most widely practiced forms of yoga, and at the same time, origin of the following well-known yoga styles: Ashtanga Yoga, Vinaya Yoga, Linear Yoga, and traditional Hatha Yoga and Vini Yoga. The differences among them will be explained, or are mainly depending on the yoga styles. Hatha means will but looked upon as being the union of Ha, moon, and Ta, the sun, that is complementary, opposing principles in body and mind. The aim of Hatha Yoga, as well as Kundalini Yoga, both based on Tantra, is to bring the underlying female and male energies in the body into a state of balance. The moon energy flows through the Ida Nadi, which is the energy channels in the body, through the left nostril, and the sun energy through Pingala Nadi, the right nostril in the body. It is perfection Hatha Yoga even claim to be able to create something like a divine body that is immune against the influence of time and disease. So, after the 7 different yogas written by Patanjali, he explains what are the 8 limbs of yoga. The Yoga Sutras contain a set of observances and practices to guide you or to guide our spiritual journey. These are known as the 8 limbs of yoga. The first one is yama, which is a correct behavior toward others. It means non-violence, truthfulness, not stealing, not wasting energy, and abstaining from greed. The second, niyama, the principles by which you should live your own life, which is purity, contentment, spiritual observances, study, and devotion. The third is asana, the seat of consciousness. The yogis sit and postures to prepare the body. The fourth pranayama, expanding the life force through breathing exercises. The fifth patrihara, turning the senses inward to explore the inner universe. The sixth dhanara, effortless focused attention, training the mind to meditate. That's meditation. The sixth dharana, effortless focused attention, training the mind to meditate. The seventh dhyana, or dhyana, a continuous flow, meditation, perfected. And the last one, samadhi, lost or found of the divine, which is unity. So this explains the 7 yogas and the 8 limbs. Again, the main purpose of yoga, which means the unity of body, mind, soul, and spirit, is to achieve ultimate reality, to achieve perfection, to go in our process of evolution in this physical world from the less evolved being to the highest evolved and perfect being, what Deepak Chopra called superhuman. So any question about this information, you might send an email on the website tushiteskai.com. There is a form to email me, and I will gladly answer any questions about yogas. So over these yogas, in this, as I started the presentation, there is a lot of other type of yogas developed by different masters that are being used especially for release stress, even for prosperity or for mind training. But I hope this information is useful for you to understand the origin of yoga, where it came from, and what's the ultimate goal of making yoga, which is achieve perfection or enlightenment. So hope this helped you understand a little bit more about yoga, and I'll see you next time. Namaste.